It's time once more to find Northern Ireland's House of the Year. We've got a wonderfully wide variety of houses, each with something special, something unique to offer. But who's going to be making those all-important decisions? Time to meet the judges. Returning once again as head judge, award-winning residential architect Des Ewing. International interior designer Suzanne Garuda. And joining them, Manhattan-based interior and product designer Michael Tavana.
The best part of being an interior designer is that I get to create spaces for my clients that express their personality.
Housing is great whenever things are going well. We know they're going well. Whenever things are going bad, we know they're going bad. But we have passion, clients have passion, and people really respect what you're trying to do.
The best aspect of my job as a judge is meeting such enthusiastic homeowners who invite us into their houses and sharing and celebrating their joy and their sense of achievement.
So there we are, 3 super stylish judges, 12 absolutely stunning properties, but only 1 winner. So, let the games begin. Oh, lucky day, because we've got 3 more stupendous contenders for this year's House of the Year. Something old, something new, and something very special. Could it be a 19th century gentleman's residence in Lurgan? Or perhaps a black and white villa on the outskirts of Portadown? Or will it be this fabulously fashionable seaside retreat, an exercise in glossy contemporary glamour that doesn't just have a room with a view, because here every room's got a view. This new-built contemporary house lies under the gaze of Fairhead, just outside Ballycastle. It's been built on the site of an historic derelict dwelling known locally as Marconi Cottage. Owners Jackie and Alan Fraser designed one side of the house to maintain their privacy, whilst the other side has large floor-to-ceiling windows maximising the stunning sea views. Generous proportions downstairs provide a spacious living space, dining area and a very modern kitchen. Upstairs, the ensuite bedrooms or cabins are at the back of the house, with the master bedroom and aptly named viewing room at the seaward side. The views out, obviously, are extraordinary. I mean, absolutely beautiful. We've got Rathlin Island there, we've got Mulligan Tower. But you've also created views into the house, which is quite unusual.
We want this house to blend into the landscape and just feel it as a very relaxing place to be. And the whole design of the house, the fact that every room has a view.
What about inspiration? Because to me, this has so many resonances with international design.
Fortunately, I do travel and I have an interest in interior designs, and fashion is my background, but my husband and I work very much as a team. It's not just my input.
What does he do then?
Well, he always gives the final say. Yeah, he writes the checks.
A very creative part of the procedure.
That's the most important bit.
Yeah,
you know, he has to pay for it.
So what is the link with Marconi?
Well, obviously he transmitted the first radio. Well, supposedly, it's hearsay, but supposedly the first radio transmission was done from this area. And when we bought the site, there was only the original wall on the outside that existed, and a small tumble-down whitewash of what was probably the original cottage. And if we could have restored an existing building, we would have done that.
If the local legends are true and Marconi did actually come here, he would have been fascinated.
This is it, and this is modern-day technology.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm sure he was terribly chic.
Yeah, absolutely.
He would have loved all your textures, for sure.
Well, I hope so.
You know, funnily enough, I think these days modern seems to come with quite a big dose of retro, because now this is going to sound awful, Suzanne, but this kind of reminds me a bit of an office, a sort of a 1960s office or a school or something.
Lawrence.
Have I shocked you?
You have shocked me.
Architecturally speaking.
I do find that a bit shocking because I think for a lot of people this is a real dream home. You know, not just the location, but there's a beautiful scale and a very, very sophisticated colour palette going on.
It's
which
definitely
is
very
so
sophisticated.
successful, really. If you look at the colours in the sea, the rocks, it's exactly the same as the carpet.
And I have to say that I think the carpet is one of the absolute triumphs. It's not just a reflection of the landscape, it's also tweed, isn't it? It's a complete reflection of Jackie. I mean, it's you know, glossy magazine cover perfect.
Yes, there is a level of perfection here which maybe for some people would be hard to live with, because we all like a little bit of we all like a bit of quirky design. Really, I do think this is a luxury home, and this house really suits them as a couple.
I think one of the extraordinary things is that amongst all of this very wild, very rugged coastal landscape, this is so crisp, you know. It's so uncompromisingly man-made and geometrical. Does that work?
The contrast between it and the stone definitely works on this side of the house. The other side of the house is maybe not just as successful. It's not just as brave as it is here. But I have a feeling that's a planning issue.
Well, also, I wonder whether it's a kind of a psychological issue as well, that obviously that's a very public face of the house, and they're trying not to draw too much attention to it. But the issue, I wonder, is whether this sort of sunny architecture, you know, this is the architecture of the Mediterranean, this is the architecture of the West Coast. Does it really, really work back in the, you know, good old-fashioned old country where it rains?
Well, it rains, yeah, but you have no choice here. When you've got a view like that, you've got to have an awful lot of glass. It'd be a shame just to do a little thatched cottage here or a repro where we had little small windows. You're only a few metres from the sea. There's going to be great issues with corrosion and water. Water penetration is one of the biggest issues of faults within houses in Northern Ireland. And here we can already see a little bit of staining on the glass. For the edge of the glass balcony. It needs to be built very well. It looks like it has been built very well. The details need to be very crisp and they need to be very tight. So internally it is the absolutely right thing to do. Externally, some of the details are a little bit heavy. I think the overhang should have been a little bit lighter, but in general, they had no choice. It had to be like this.
This is extraordinary, isn't it? I feel as if I'm in some incredibly glossy, very, very glamorous advert almost, selling something very expensive and lovely.
This is sleek, chic, and sophisticated. It really, really is. It so reflects the homeowners. She is just Donna Karan, Armani, you know, and that with a little bit of Dolce & Gabbana swung in there.
This is extraordinary. I can tell you like it because there's so much hip swinging. I'm actually beginning to feel a little seasick. It's like being on a boat with you, Michael. There's something quite nautical about this.
She went with the feeling of the ocean with all the colors. They're soothing, yet there is enough color. Don't particularly like the carpets, a little bit too matchy-patchy through the house.
It is the ultimate open plan because there are no real distinctions other than glass.
No, and the glass, you know, you have that perfect combination of shine and matte happening in here, which is difficult to do. And the placement of color, where there is color, it really is. I find it
very exciting, I have to say. I mean, things like that burnt ochre colour, the grey is quite unusual.
It really is. And this kitchen is well done with the colour combinations.
Now, I want to know where she got these buckles from, because I think you've got a trouser suit. I'm sure you've got a trouser suit with a dirty gravy buckle like that.
They're straight off my shoes, or what they're off, from the time of the Quakers.
I'm amazed you can walk in those. I really am. It is lovely, because actually, a kitchen like this can be too plain, it can be too simple.
But it's the wood.
It's accessories.
It is, and it's that wood tone that warms it up in here.
So generally speaking, you're enjoying this.
I am enjoying this.
You have a few reservations.
A few, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it.
Sounds to me like my friend Michael here is having something of a chic overdose. So how is he and the other judges going to cope with house number 2? Now, there aren't many period properties in this year's competition, so this house is a rare treat to be savoured. It's a Victorian home that's brimful of character and overflowing with period details. It's even got its own glamorous swimming pool, housed in its own glamorous Victorian-inspired pool house. This gentleman's residence in Lurgan is the much-loved home of Eileen and Pat Hannah. At one time, this 6-bedroomed house had servants' quarters. But the house has been modernised in recent years, with many of the Victorian features being retained. Pat built the swimming pool extension himself and painstakingly searched for original stained glass for the windows. Not only have they turned their hand to the inside, the couple have worked hard to reintroduce Victorian splendour to the one-time award-winning gardens. When it comes to owning a house like this, is it a huge responsibility? Because obviously this house has seen an enormous amount. It's quite a local landmark. Are there times when you feel that you've got to kind of live up to it a bit, or can it reflect your personalities?
Yes, you can make it reflect the personalities. Because
I love the way you thought about it. Because I'm beginning to suspect that you're quite good at getting your personality across.
Yeah, because this is a house for fun. It's a house for entertaining. It's a house for bringing people to, friends and family. And I think that's what we've achieved with this house.
This is an extraordinary house. It really is Victorian architecture in all its twinkly, winkly, showy offiness. So what's it like being Lord of the Manor?
I've never felt like I'm the Lord of the Manor, but I felt that I owe a lot to people of that generation. I've always had great admiration for design and people that put thought into things.
But also, you've built this whole swimming pool.
Yes.
That looks as if it's been here forever.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Well, this originally was the greenhouse. This didn't exist. So then we turned that into the conservatory, and then, as you say, this was an outside pool which was never used because of the weather. So then Pat decided to cover it.
What is your favourite bit about the house?
Well, probably my favourite room in the house would be the kitchen. We do spend a lot of time there. We try to create it to look old. You have to be respectful with everything that's in the house.
Well, this house has a little bit to live up to. It already has won an award for its garden, albeit in 1954. But is it up to winning this year's House of the Year? Let's see what the judges think. Let's catch up with Michael inside. I always think the secret with Victorian Gardens, prize winning or not, is to look down on them. There's a wonderful view from up there. Ah, where have you been?
Oh, in the dining room, just a little bite to eat.
Very nice.
It's a lovely dining room with all the Murano glass that they brought back from their holidays. She really loves entertaining.
I want to just draw your attention to the wallpaper in here, because I think that this is something that a lot of people aren't brave enough to do, but by thunder, that looks good.
It does work, doesn't it? I mean, the scale of it works with the space. This house truly is a study in architecture and scale. The volume of it is perfectly done. I mean, if you strip this whole house out and left the window treatments and...
That'll be curtains.
The carpets and the lighting and replaced it with more of a modern furniture.
It would work.
It would work for a young family immediately.
Yeah. But this room interests me because obviously this room was always designed to celebrate a relationship with the garden.
Right.
And now they've revived the path and the pond. You can see how, you know, that's actually part of the room, really, isn't it? Amazing.
It's just breathtaking to walk in. You don't know what time of history you're in when you look out there.
And the relationship between the path, the balustrade, the urns, the fountain, it brings the garden into the house.
It does, and you could just imagine some ladies with bustles out there.
I often see ladies with lovely bustles. Disappointingly, when I look out into the garden, I see no ladies with bustles. I just see Des, the head of our judging panel, with a very stern look on his face. I always think it's really important when dealing with an old house to remember that life isn't a period drama, that in fact trying to capture the spirit of an age actually works very, very well. And there's a personality that seems to rhyme with Victorian sensibility.
It's beautiful. Some Victorian houses in this country are a little bit too grim. This one's very playful. It's got all the original details. It's almost becoming a little bit camp, this house.
Well, it's that late flowering arts and crafts eclectic look where you get lots of craft items, which I think are lovely. What about what they've done in the garden? What about what they've done with that pool house?
Oh, the extension here. I think the extension is appropriate in that it's extended into the garden and it's at low level and takes away from the building, which is just a little bit too high.
Yeah.
So that's correct. Maybe a little bit more detail to the roof. If you're going to do it, you have to do it correctly. They have the fan lights correct, they have the leaded lights correctly done, so it looks as if it is part of the original building.
And then what about the garden? Because the garden's obviously a very, very important part of this house and often a very important part of Victorian design.
Yeah, it is, and the path around the exterior of the garden and this path coming out from the bay are entirely appropriate in terms of their plan. Some of the materials they've used in it I wouldn't be so keen on. I think this would have been better as a gravel or natural stone rather than this new concrete product. It looks dead when you compare it with the real thing, with these natural materials, with the natural terracotta colour in the brick. It's when you put one beside the other, it's a bit more difficult.
Oh, I suddenly fancy a cocktail. What a lovely pool.
Well, yes, we're in a Victorian gentleman's residence
really,
with a swimming pool, indoor swimming pool, which to me makes a lot of sense in
Very
Northern
luxy,
Ireland. Yes.
very luxy.
And it's very sympathetically done. I mean, you've got this lovely joinery which ties in the stained glass, which is new, but is, you know, copies the old.
Perfect.
And even the pitch pine, I do really like it here. I think it works really well.
Well, you normally are pinophobic. But I don't know, I think there's a heritage sense to that which works. You know, it feels like, well, as you say, a shooting lodge somewhere.
Yeah, it ties in
very, well.
very much with what was the potting shed, and they basically took it all down, remade it as a garden room, and then were able to connect it to what is then the indoor pool. So it looks like it's always been here.
I love the sort of the worn texture to the leather. I wonder how they've achieved that.
Well, I think that might be to do with the cat and the dog.
If you want to Ralph Lauren up your sofa, get a dog. So, house number 2, an historical rarity in the series, so enjoy it. Move on to house number 3. Our third and final house is just down the road in Portadown. It's a 5,500 square foot exercise in monochrome modern. Yes, like all the best fashionista photo shoots, this place oozes black and white chic. Set in an acre of land, this striking house in Portadown reflects the owner Vivian Busby's love of natural light. Large windows face out into the garden, designed to bring the outside inside. There are no curtains in the house, just the odd window panel or two. Not only does it have 6 bedrooms, all of which are en suite, there's also an annex used for additional guests. Vivian has chosen a stylish minimal colour palette with all of the downstairs walls painted white, except for one wall, which is painted black. What did you say to your architect to end up with this fabulous black and white palace?
I just wanted something modern, bright. And my late husband, he would have liked to build a house and he wanted to build something modern and different. So that inspired me, really.
You obviously trusted your contractors a lot,
Absolutely.
You trusted your architect a lot, and relied on them to be able to create your vision.
I was open to suggestions.
Right.
And if I thought the suggestion was good, I went with it.
The light seems to get absolutely everywhere. Was that something that you found that you were constantly changing as the build happened?
Well, I wanted something bright and airy. I wanted a lot of light and I wanted to be able to see into every room. You can stand at one side of the house and look right through to the other side of the house.
Was there one thing that was quite difficult to find in black? I mean, was it easy to find a black kitchen?
Yes, it was quite easy to find a black kitchen, but I didn't decide on a black kitchen right away.
Why, were you flirting with, ooh, let me think about it, maybe white?
Maybe.
Did you find it an easy process building your own home?
Oh,
Did you
yes.
enjoy it?
I really enjoyed it, yes. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Going to do it again?
Absolutely.
And what's the next one going to be like?
Maybe more cottagey type.
Wonderful. Well, let's go upstairs and see what Suzanne thinks about the black and white bedrooms. Although obviously very simple and very modern, the staircase does nevertheless have quite a lot of Hollywood glam to it, the way it curves around the piano like that. And even the balustrade, the glass in the balustrade is curved as well, which is a really very, very lovely detail. What do you think of this? I mean, do you think this is too simple? Is this too restrained? Is it?
I shouldn't really like it because it's very black and white. I shouldn't, but I do. There's a lot of integrity about this space, and it is really homely as well. And every room seems to have a uniqueness about it, even though it's not in the colour or so much the textures. It just has a strength and integrity, which I really like.
This has also got a lot of drama, which I quite like.
I love this space.
Drama.
I love this space. And I love the way they've just put the staircase and this walkway straight through the space.
Yeah.
They've just cut across it, but it's still so open.
Where is the colour? To me, everything being white or black.
If we go in here, not only have we got colour, but we've got pattern too.
That is vintage Kermit. But I suppose you can get away with these very, very strong statements in such a simple interior.
Absolutely. And every single bedroom has got a different volume and space, and I think they've utilised that very well. You need very little colour in that.
The idea of the mezzanine, obviously, that's a teenage bedroom dream.
It's a great use of the volume, isn't
Well,
it?
it is, isn't
really,
it?
really works very well, just dividing this space, because you wouldn't want the bedroom to be in this entire space.
I am getting a little bit irritated by the acoustic, because there's something
There's just too many hard surfaces.
It's like a school or a station or something. A few softer elements would
Especially
sort that.
in the bedroom. I probably would have put carpet or a big rug, whatever, just to absorb some of that.
The thing that rather strikes me about the house is, of course, the downside of having all of that glass. You get a lot of light coming in, but then people can really see in, can't they?
Yeah, this is the best elevation of this house. This is the elevation that faces south, so it's got to have a lot of glass on it. But then as people drive in, they see you sitting in the front room, that's a little bit of a problem.
Bit of a fishbowl thing.
Yeah, it is, and I think maybe a little bit more strategically positioned planting here would have helped that. But conceptually, it's strong in that it's a very simple plan we have here. Very little circulation space in it, but any circulation space we have is dramatic. Where it falls down a little bit is perhaps the detail of it. If we look at the two gables we have here, for me, the gable on the right-hand side is much more successful, where we have glass in the middle,
So I like the
rather than the one on the left-hand
gable. I
side.
think the left-hand gable is rather elegant. That's
I think if you had a vote, you'd find most people would go for the right-hand one.
Would you indeed?
I think so.
Well, as the chairman of the judges, obviously, your vote counts more than most.
So it's little bits of detail like that, and when you get into the detail of the eaves, you know, it's a little bit too simple, perhaps, for this type of house.
I find the materials unusual here.
If we put red brick onto this house, everything would have been dark. Dark brick, dark windows, dark roof.
So all in all, you're quite intrigued by this place.
I know they want a house that's very bright, but sometimes it's just too much.
I think there's something a little bit American about all of this. There's a sense of light and space, and even details. Those plants, to me, feel quite California.
Right, California, Florida, that sunroom feeling. You definitely can't be afraid to run around in your skivvies in this room.
No. Also, I love the fact you use the S-U-N word.
Earlier today, there was plenty of sun roaming in here, which was beautiful. The room filled with light.
The fact that that's black creates a very graphic frame.
Very modern. It has that modern feel without being stark. And even without any window treatments on it, it still works.
And of course, we've got the black going right the way through, because winking at me down there.
Yes, and also the floor carries through with that rectangular line that wraps through.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And she entertains a lot, so she has lots of areas. She has the formal dining here, which carries on into the kitchen that is all black cabinetry. I do love the drama of it. And the heavy stainless steel handles, I think, kind of balance out the black.
I think most people would see a black shiny kitchen and worry about handprints, but you're
No, it's not. It's not
right,
leaving
isn't
it. It's really quite brilliant. One of the things I do love about this kitchen is that it has an appliance garage. So this is where the appliances are parked. So it drives in, it drives out. And you shut it and put it away.
Obviously, Vivienne is someone that's using all of these different influences, but some interesting materials.
Interesting material. This granite countertop is from the mountains of Mourne. It's also being used in the memorial at 9/11. That's where the granite is coming from, is from here.
Well, I didn't know
which is over the pond to us.
Well, there we go, local material with a very interesting story to tell. And a very interesting last house for this programme. But obviously it's up to the judges to decide which one will be House of the Year. Will it be Vivienne's black and white dream house? Well, we've seen all three properties, and weren't they mouth-watering? But what do our judges think? Before I ungag them and allow them to express an opinion, Let's have a quick recap. Could our winning house be house number 1, a stunning contemporary home with more than one room with a view? Or could it be house number 2, Victorian elegance in Lurgan, a charming gentleman's residence from yesteryear? And finally, house number 3, an open-plan monochromatic mansion in Portadown. It's over to the judges.
What a great selection for our second programme. What do you think?
Absolutely.
I mean, the variety is just so amazing. There's so many different styles of houses.
Well, what about this first one? I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about this. It's a contemporary coastal residence in Ballycastle. That's Alan and Jackie.
Well, so incredibly stylish,
Yeah.
so well finished, beautiful colours. You know, it looks like somebody has really designed it who's got exquisite taste.
This house brought the bar way up.
What
for
would you like
everybody.
about it most? Yeah.
Like the proportions, I like the scale.
They'd taken the sort of petrol blues and the greys out of the surrounding
brought it in.
stone
They
and
did.
brought it inside.
That's great because the outside is what is important. I mean, to be able to build a house on that
Inside's
particular
important
side. How about when you have an outside like that,
Yeah, where it was
you've got the sea, you've got
planted.
Rathdown Island.
It was a really dramatic space.
I would think there'd be more personal touches in there, that it would have a little bit more of their own identity and not the identity of an Armani store. So I'm not saying that it wasn't done well. It absolutely was done well. But it's that extra little detail that you look for when you walk into a house.
I think that will come with
for
time,
me,
though. I think that will come with time.
It is a stylish house. We're agreed on that. We disagree on a few little items of detail, but our second house, this is something totally different. Victorian gentleman's residence. This is in Lurgan, Patton Island. Something that's a million miles away in terms of siting and in terms of style of building.
I have to say that this is more of what I expected when I was coming to Northern Ireland. I
What's
expected
Irish about that?
more old world and just this very relaxed and about family, but family in an old world way. And that's what this house kind of had for me.
What I liked about this house was it was a great example of a Victorian gentleman's residence in an area which around it is very run down, and I'm so glad to see those houses are still looking so good and are lived in.
Externally, this is quite an exuberant house, the Victorian
That
house.
addition was
All
great
the
that they
details
put
that are with it. The extension is
Yeah.
great. It does two things. It continues the style of the house, but it also forms a space in the garden. And the gardens in this house are excellent. From that
I
point
wish
of
they
view,
would have
it's
done
good.
something different on the pathways.
I would agree with you on that,
Okay.
yeah. I think a gravel or a stone or
think
something
that would have
natural,
been-
and
that would
also
have been
some of the
great.
concrete
Yeah.
details are maybe not entirely appropriate.
Yeah.
That wallpaper in the foyer, to me, that really pushed that house forward when you walk into it.
The brick, the stained glass, the leaded glass, all of those elements I think could have been made more a feature of and less actually of the interior design. It needed to be sort of simplified and pared down.
Okay. Our last house then, the monochromatic new build. This is in Portadown.
I think that with Vivian's house, what I liked about it was it sort of suited her lifestyle. It's not the most practical of houses because it had the black gloss kitchen. It was very monochromatic, very black and white, but a real nice sense of open space. The bedrooms were very airy and contemporary with a nice blast of colour.
It was a little too bland downstairs for me. I did like the open space, that big kitchen area that goes into the dining and into the family room. I thought that worked really well.
She's put it together herself as well. You know, she's worked with the builder. There's a lot of personal involvement.
To take on that kind of a project is really a big task.
But this is what's great about this particular show, in that there's three totally different houses there. Anyone could do very well in the final. We just got to wait.
Lots to think about there then. And join us next time because we'll have 3 more astonishing properties for our judges to ponder on as we continue our quest to find Northern Ireland's House of the Year.